Filtering a pivot table using a slicer helps you and your colleagues visualize which values the filter includes and excludes. You have a lot of control over the slicer's appearance and other characteristics, so you can customize it to meet your needs. In this movie, I'll demonstrate how to reformat a slicer. My sample file is Format Slicers 0307, and you can find it in the Chapter 3 folder of the Exercise Files collection. The pivot table in this file summarizes total sales by category. Let's say that I want to filter this pivot table by category. I can do that by clicking any cell within the pivot table and then going to the Analyze contextual tab of the ribbon and then clicking Insert Slicer. Then in the Insert Slicers dialog box, I can check the category box, click OK, and there I have it. I have my categories. Note that the slicer has the same formatting as the pivot table, but they're not connected to each other. So if I click a cell in the pivot table and then go to the Design contextual tab and select a new design, let's say I go for this gray, you'll notice that the pivot table changes, but the slicer didn't. If I want to change the formatting of the slicer, I need to select it, then go to the Options contextual tab under Slicer Tools. And here I have the items that I can use to change the slicer. One thing you can do is to change the caption, and that's this word here, category. To do that, I go over to the slicer caption box, and let's say that instead of just category, I want to have product category. And press return, and that changes the caption on the title bar. I can also change the style that's applied to the slicer. You see those here. And if it looks familiar to the Excel tables styles and the pivot table styles galleries, you're exactly right. They are the same. So if I click the More button here, I see the styles that are available. And let's say that I want to go for one that is dark gray. That's a little hard to read, so let's go for a blue and gray. There we go. That's easier to read. If you want, you can also create a custom style. So click the More button, go down to New Slicer Style, and click that. And you see that you can work with all of the individual elements. So for example, for the header, let's say that I want to format that, and I will do the font in bold, and the color will be white. And then the fill, so I'll click the Fill tab, make it purple, and click OK. And there we have that there. Click OK. And that style is now available. So if I click the More button again, it's available under Custom. Click there, and there we have it. You can also change the number of columns and also the size of individual buttons, as well as the height and width of the slicer itself. So let's say that I want to go to 2 columns instead of just 1. To do that, I will go to the Buttons group on the Options contextual tab, and I'll just click the up arrow on the spin control to change it to 2 columns. And I can either set the height and the width, or I can drag one of the handles until everything appears. There we go. And I can also make it shorter. If you want to change the height of the buttons, you can do that. In this case, they're 0.26, about 1/4 inch. And I'll make it 0.3. That's a little too big, so I'll go down to 0.2, and there we go. Much more compact. And if I click Wind Harvester, you can see that with this formatting, it is outlined as opposed to changing color. But of course, you can define that in your custom style. If you want even more control, you can go to the Options tab while your slicer is selected, and over on the left side, just below the slicer caption box, click Slicer Settings. And here you can change your display settings. You can change how the values are sorted. You can change the caption, whether it displays the header or not, and so on. I'll leave you to explore those on your own. I'll click Cancel. Slicers provide a visual representation of pivot table filters, so you should take care to format and customize your slicers so they are visually distinctive but don't overwhelm the data in the pivot table.